Good afternoon, America. Today is November the 14th. It is a Wednesday, and it is 11:07 a.m. We are going to continue with section E, examples of biblical heroes that were extremely obedient to the words of God. Yesterday we did Noah. Today, Abram will be our example, and we're going to be reading from Genesis 12. Okay, I'm only going to be reading it from the Rainbow Bible this morning because it is very easy to understand, and I really don't think I need to use the other book. But first, we're going to give you a little bit of wise sayings. And the first one comes from Colossians 3:15, and it says, "And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also ye are called in one body, and be ye thankful." Be ye thankful to be called. It is a privilege to be called. It is an honor to be called. It is more of a privilege and an honor for God to be your boss. Okay? So let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also ye are called in one body, and be ye thankful. Okay? That's Colossians 3:15. The back of it says, and it's coming from John 8:32. And it says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." You will know the truth, you will learn the truth, you will hear the truth, and it will set you free. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Okay, so that is our wise saying for today. Now, in this particular reading, we're going to be reading about the faithful servant of God, the friend of God, Abram. His name was Abram, but it was changed to Abraham down the line in Genesis. But I'm just going to share a little bit of information with you about this hero called Abram. Abram's name means the father of multitudes. The father of multitude. That is what his name means. Abraham means the father of multitude. He was first named Abram in Genesis 11:27. He is a native of Ur in Genesis 11:28 and 31. He was separated from Lot, his nephew, in Genesis 13:8-12. When he was called, he was renamed, so his covenant was renewed, and his new name was Abraham. And that is in Genesis 17:1-8. A little bit about Abram. He had a covenant. He had two sons. The first of them, he had many, many sons. But his first son was Ishmael. But his covenant was, the promise was given through the seed of Isaac. Okay? Isaac was the child of Sarah, who was renamed Sarah. And she was 99 years old when she gave birth to Isaac. So the covenant went through him. Of his seed, it went through Isaac. And that is, you can read about it in Genesis 17:20-22. He was also a witness to the Sodom's doom. And that is in Genesis 19:27 and 28. Let me go back to Isaac. The covenant was in Isaac, by Isaac, not Ishmael. And you can read about that in Genesis 17:20-22, as well as Galatians in the New Testament 4, 22 to 31. Okay, he was tested by God. And that test, he was very obedient to that test because why? He loved God and he was a friend of God and he knew God well. So he knew that if God wanted me to do this thing, God is also able to bring this child back to life. So he was tested in offering Isaac in Genesis 22, 1 to 19. He also received the blessing of Melchizedek in Genesis 14, 18 to 20. He was considered a friend of God in Second Chronicles 27, and I wrote that down for you. Second Chronicles 27 says, "Art not thou our God, who didst drive out the inhabitants of this land before thy people Israel, and giveth it to the seed of Abraham thy friend forever." So he was considered a friend of God. He was separated from Lot, his nephew, in Egypt because he moved from where he was to Egypt, and his nephew followed him to Egypt. And what happened was that because Abraham was very rich in all things, rich in cattle, rich in all things, and his nephew also had much possessions as well, that when they moved to Egypt, the herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Abraham began to strive together. So what Abraham did was he separated himself from Lot, and they did this in Genesis 13, 8. That's in the next chapter, but I wrote down Genesis 13, 8 to 8, 9 for you, and I will read it to you now. It says Genesis 13, 8. "And Abram said unto Lot his nephew, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and my herdsmen and thy herdsmen, for we be brethren." Okay, Genesis 13, 9. "Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou wilt depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left." Okay, so this is how they separate from one another. Lot was his nephew, and his nephew's name means covering. Lot means covering. Abraham means father of multitude. Lot means covering. Okay, and Lot had some characters that I'm going to describe briefly to you. Lot makes selfish choices, and Genesis 13:12 will verify that, which is silver. Genesis 13:12 says, "Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the city of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom." This is why he ended up living in Sodom. Okay, but when he got to Sodom, where he was at, Sodom was directly ahead of him. So, but the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly, as the people are today. Actually not identical to the people of Sodom. The people of today are 1,000,000 times worse than the people of Sodom. Okay, so, but the men of Sodom and the people of America were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Okay. Another character trait about Lot was that he lacked moral stability in Genesis 19, 6 to 10. He lost moral influence in Genesis 19, 4 to 20. This is when the angels of God, two of them, came to rescue Lot And while the angels were there, the sodomites, which were gay people, were wanting to get after the angels that was in his house, so that they can have sex with them. So he lost some moral influences there, but he was able to keep the men from the angels. And the angels ended up doing something really bad to the men anyway. The angels blinded the men. All right, you don't mess with angels because they're greater than man. They're not mortals like man. Okay. Also, that will be it for the characters of Lot and Abraham. So now we're going to go back here. We're going to start the reading. And it is very easy to understand. I know I don't need the other book today. All right, in chapter 12 of Genesis, God calls Abraham and promises him blessings. He also, Abraham and Sarah deceived the Pharaoh in Egypt. Okay, they tell a lie, and that lie brings about deception. Water my mouth with some orange juice. In the chapter of Genesis 12, we have our love. It starts off with our love for commandments. A commandment is something that you just have to do. You don't have a choice about it. And if you're an obedient servant, which we're reading about obedient servants now, you will do as you've been asked to do. We have gold for prophecy. We have red for discipleship. We also have silver for history. We have one blended verse, which is verse 7. It is part gold for prophecy and part red for discipleship. And we have a significant amount of yellow for family, about 10 verses of the 20 verses in Genesis 12 are yellow for family. Verse 11 to verse 20 is yellow for family. And we do have some black here. We have 2 verses of black. Verse 9 and verse 10. And I'm sorry, we do have another verse that is split verse, part silver and part orange for your faith. Silver is for history, and that is verse 8. We have also some uppercase lettering in this chapter, emphasizing the importance of it, and it's in the beginning of the chapter. Verses 1, 2, 3 are uppercase, all of it. And verses 7 has some uppercase wording in it, and I will always call that out to you. All right, so let's begin. All right, God calls Abraham and promises him blessings. And God calls Abram and promises him blessings. Abram and Sarah deceived the Pharaoh of Egypt. Verse 1, which is our love for commandments. Now the Lord has said unto Abraham, that's not uppercase lettering, but here it comes. Now the Lord has said unto Abram, here comes the uppercase lettering, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindreds and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. So he's saying to him, I want you to get up, leave your land where your fathers, where your kinfolks are, and I want you to go to this land that I will show you. That is what it says there. I'll read it again. Now the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country, where you were born, and from thy kindred, your family, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. That is all olive for commandment. 2 and 3 is gold for prophecy, and it's completely uppercase lettering. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. 3, also all uppercase lettering. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Okay, so, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. This is why it is never good to curse people, because if you curse those among Belial's children or Satan's kids, nothing will come about. You will be cool. Nothing will go wrong. Okay? You won't even be reprimanded for it. All right? But if you curse one among the people of God, or if you curse a servant of the Lord, you shall be cursed yourself. Let me repeat that. If you curse at one of Satan's people, nothing will come about. Nothing. If you curse one among the people of God, or even worse, a servant of God, much trouble will come your way. And that individual don't even have to hear you say it. They don't have to hear you say it. God himself heard you. And that is enough to give you a cursing you will not believe. Okay, so watch what comes out of your mouth about people. Because if they are among Satan's, nothing will happen. If they are among God's, much trouble will come your way. That's the perfect example with Moses and his sister and brother Miriam and Aaron. Moses was not around when they were talking about when his sister and his brother was talking ill of him. Moses did not hear those words, but he saw the effects of it, and he prayed for his sister, but she still had to spend her time outside of the camp full of leprosy. Okay, that's a classic example I'm giving you, whether it's in the biblical time or today. Okay, I hope you heard that well. All right, verse 4 says, I will repeat verse 3 because it's very important and you need to get this. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. 4 is read for discipleship. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Okay, his nephew followed him on his journey. All right. 5 and 6 is silver for history. And Abraham took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And in the land of Canaan they came. So they got to Canaan, both of them, Abram and Lot, and all the souls that were with them, and all their possession. 6, and Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plains of Morith, and the Canaanites were there in the land. Okay. 7 is that split verse I was telling you that is part gold and part red. Gold comes first, which is prophecy. And in that half a verse, you will hear some uppercase lettering. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, here comes the uppercase lettering, unto thy seed will I give this land. So he left his countrymen, he left his father's house, he went to a place which he knew not. Okay, let me go back here to verse 1. Verse 1 says, now the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kinfolks, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. We're going to back that up with Hebrews 12. Hebrews 12 talks about faith is defined and illustrated through the lives of Old Testament heroes. This is what's going on in Hebrews 12. Hebrews 12:8 says, by faith Abraham, when he was called to go into a place which he shall after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. That's the key word here. He obeyed. And he went out not knowing whither he went. He went out not knowing where he was going. That's called trust in God. He was trusting God. Okay? Now we're going to go back to verse 5. We're going to go back to verse 5. Verse 2, I'm sorry. And I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Okay, we're going to back that up. Verse Genesis 12:2 with Galatians 3:8. And in Galatians 3:8, it talks about the Holy Spirit enables us to grow in God. It also talks about Abraham was justified by faith. It speaks of Christ has redeemed us from the care of the law. And it also talks about the law was given to reveal our guilt. But in Galatians 3:8, and the scripture foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, if in thee shall all nations be blessed. Okay, we're verifying what it says in Genesis 12:2, which says, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Now let's move on down to 4. So Abraham departed, which is red, as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. 5. And Abraham took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, making his nephew, and all their substance, and they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and to the land of Canaan they came. 6. And Abraham passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the place of Moreh, and the Canaanites were there in the land. Here comes 7, that split verse. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, uppercase lettering, unto thy seed will I give this land. Okay, that's the gold part. The red part says, and there built he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. 8, another split verse, part silver and part orange for your faith. Silver is for history. And he moved from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having met Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. 9 and 10 is black. And Abraham journeyed, going on still towards the south. 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. Okay, so 11 to 20 is all yellow for family. Pay attention. And it came to pass when he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look at. She was beautiful. Sarah was a beautiful woman. Okay. 12. Therefore it should come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Okay. 13. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. Okay. So I want you to say, because you're a beautiful woman, and men will look upon you and want you, and they will even kill me for you. I want you to say that I am your brother, and that will spare my life for your sake. Okay, I'll read that again. And it came to pass, when he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. 12. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, that they will save thee alive. 13. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. 14. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians behold the woman, that she was very fair. 15. The princess also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken unto Pharaoh's house. Okay, so they came and got Sarai and took her to the Pharaoh's house. All right. 16. And he entrusted Abraham well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses and men servants and maid servants and she asses and camels. These was all his possessions. 17. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So once they took Sarah into the Pharaoh's house, the Lord did his thing. The Lord will always look out for his own. He will always look out for his own. The Lord already knew what Abraham would do. Okay. So the Lord did his thing. All right. So he plagued him on behalf of Sarai. And he entrusted Abraham well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he asses and men servants and maid servants and she asses and camels. 17. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. 18. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? How he knew it was Abram, I don't know. I can't explain that to you. Okay. But he knew to call Abram. Okay, because Abram was supposed to be the brother of Sarai. Okay, so his spirit said, Call Abram. And the Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Okay. 19. Why sayest thou, She is my sister, so that I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold, thy wife, take her and go away from me. This is a land in which God has supreme. He is supreme in the land. So everybody considers that which will come upon them for doing that which is wicked. So that Pharaoh was that type of individual. He thought about what God would do to him. Unlike the nations of today, they have no fear of God and will do all kinds of things without the thought of God in all their thoughts. God is not in any of their thoughts, especially the rich man, Lord God. But back in the days when the world was young and the people were closer to God, they ponder over their actions. And this is what the Pharaoh did. He pondered over his actions. He said, I could have laid down and took her for my wife. But you told me she was your sister. And this is why he said, why have you done this to me? Not because he was afraid of Abraham, he was afraid of the Lord. Unlike the nations of today, unlike the politicians of today, they implement laws that are totally against the laws of God, sanctioning same-sex marriages, forcing everybody to call this new beast or it by its new name because it has a sex change, which is an abomination unto God. It's one thing when a doctor takes and repairs the cliff on a child's mouth. It's another thing when a doctor takes and removes a growth on the face of a person. It's another thing when doctors get together and come up with a cure for the disease. That is something that is good for everyone. But when a doctor takes the secrets of a man and removes them and puts a plastic secret there that does not belong on that individual, that is a monstrosity. That is a nation of people who fear not the Lord. Okay. And the Pharaoh called Abram, back to 18, and said, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? 19. Why sayest thou she is my sister, so that I may have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way, he said. Go away from me. 20. And the Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. That's a God-fearing generation. That's the difference between the biblical times and today. If I had to use my fingers, watch my fingers now. Watch them now. Watch them now. Keep watching. That's how close the people of the land were to God. The amount between one tip and this tip is the sin in the nation. It's the sin. It represents the sin on the earth. Okay? Now pay attention to my fingers. I can't go no further. That's how far away we are from God. You see the space between this and tip and that tip? That's how great the sin is upon the land. Okay? That's how far we have come from him. And because there's so much distance between one tip to the other, There's much abominations going on in the land. Much. Violence is at its highest point ever in the history of mankind. Criminals are getting away with murder, and innocent people are being jailed. Okay. Now you know what happened in the time of Noah when it got that, when the nation's sin was so great, violence in the earth was so great. You see what the Lord did, right? Do you think that we are exempt from his punishment, from his wrath? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I hope I'm giving you something to think about. If the Lord is putting something in your heart, do it. Regardless of how crazy it may be, do it. If he's telling you to put a shelter in your backyard, underground, do it! If he's treating you like Noah and whispering in your ear and telling you what to do, do it! Because there's a reason why. And all those that do have obeyed the Lord, and it will be a reward unto thee. Because there is much evil upon this land today. And when the Lord goes wiping them out, he does it in great numbers. But those who he chooses to spare, he gives them instructions way before the day of doom. So if you're getting instructions from our Father God, be an obedient servant and do it. Okay? That is it for today. I hope you got something out of it. I hope I made myself very clear. And above all, I hope that whatever you learn from spiritual water, you apply it to your life. So if you're getting some messages from God to prepare, obey. And you will be glad you did, like Noah was. All right? In the meantime, don't forget to put on the armor of God. The only way you can put that armor on, you have to pick up that holy manual that you have in your house, blow the dust off of it, open it up. Don't be concerned about where to start, and just open it up and start wherever the Lord leads you. And feed every day. In the same way that you feed that body, inside that body, it's that element that makes that body move. It's that element that gives that body a voice. Make sure you feed that element. It's called your spirit. It does not take the same food that your body takes. Okay? The food that your body takes goes through your mouth. The food that your spirit takes goes through your eyes and ends up in your heart. The food that your body takes goes through your mouth and ends up in your stomach. But your spirit, that which it takes, it goes through your eyes and ends up in your heart. And there it stays and strengthens thee. In the meantime, may the peace of God be upon thee, the protection of God surround thee, and the will of God, whatever that may be for your life, not your will, his will for your life, come from thee. Thank you very much for listening to us here at Spiritual Water, and enjoy the rest of your day.